can't go too crazy because we're in the city, but the Ginger took traction control off. All right, guys, as promised from last week's video, we are gonna take out the Ginger's supercharged Mojave Gladiator and give you guys my honest thoughts and opinions of what I think a supercharged new Gladiator is like to drive. And we'll talk a little bit about the installation. The Ginger's gonna answer some of our questions and give us some of his thoughts and opinion on actually installing, because you did the full installation yourself. And we'll do a walk through the engine bay. We'll talk about some of the mods on the Mojave here today. And we're definitely gonna take it out and hit the streets. And we'll talk all about superchargers on this week's video. Brought to you by Epic Adventure Outfitters.
So I started with the Mojave because I had a vision of a low, light, and fast platform. Some of that came to fruition. Some of it was thrown out the window halfway through. So,
or thrown on the floor of the shop.
On the
right?
floor of the shop, probably. Yeah, and out the door.
In case you're unfamiliar, anything that's no good, shop floor.
Yep. Happy birthday to the ground.
The big unique look to the Mojave is this hood. Now this isn't the same as the 392 hood, right? This is not a functional air intake, it's just a look.
To the best of my knowledge, it is the same hood without the functionality.
Without the hydro system. So the 392s have a similar looking hood, but they have that crazy water removal system, so you can get water in there. The Mojave's a little different, but definitely gives it a really...
Does that mean I can store my water when I'm overlanding in a 392 down there?
Out of here. you can funnel it right into your filter system. That would be a cool mod. Yeah. No, so we've got the hood on here. That's just really what sets the Mojave apart, and it's got this nice orange accent to it. But Christian's swapped out the grill. We've got the black grill, and behind it, and we'll get to this in a minute, but we've got the intercooler for the RIP supercharger. On the front, we've added a Warn Evo 12S winch to get us out of those sticky situations. We've got that really nice orange Factor 55 Ultra hook sitting on the front bumper. I really like that. Ties in really nice with the Mojave orange accents. Now,
I thought I had that to get you out of the sticky situations from what I've seen from your videos.
Okay, well, we won't get into details.
We removed all of the fenders to do the American Adventure Labs fender kit, as well as the custom inner fenders and lights, but that wasn't good enough, so I wanted all black hardware, and bed linered paint to match fenders, because I like the look of a painted fender over just a plastic or black fender.
Yeah, they look really good. Up front, we got some suspension changes.
I tried to maintain the factory suspension as best I could with a 2-inch lift and all the pieces to make it work properly, but the factory suspension was designed for one purpose, and it was to run rough roads and dunes and stuff. So if you put any kind of weight on it, even a winch, you start taking away all of your travel, and it only had 8 inches of shock shaft to begin with. So, but at least I got a really cool hood and a more comfortable seat and steering wheel. So
yeah.
At least I got that, and it was different. A lot of people call and they ask us, like, should I get a Mojave? Should I get a Rubicon? Realistically, the answer is Rubicon. Like, the Mojave, if you want that look, or if you're not going to lift it at all, go for a Mojave. It is the most comfortable ride out of the box.
So big differences between the Rubicon and the Mojave real quick.
So the Mojave is more strengthened for probably impact on landing when you're jumping dunes and stuff. It doesn't have a front locker, the Rubicon does.
Right.
It has a higher range transfer case than the Rubicon, so you can drive faster and 4-low.
So it doesn't have the 4-to-1.
Nope, and it doesn't have a sway bar disconnect. So, but it does come with way better shocks and suspension if you're keeping it.
Sounds like half a Rubicon that needs a bunch of replacements.
Yes.
This sway bar, what's up with the sway bar?
We put in the Rubicon sway bar disconnect because I don't have time to mess with manual disconnects. We have the Evo knob on it so we can disconnect the sway bar. We took the electronics and threw them into a cupboard, and we put the manual disconnect knob that Off-Road Evolution sells so that I can just literally bend over, spin the knob a couple times, and my sway bar is disconnected, and it doesn't matter what speed I'm going.
And we've got, how many inch lift did you put on here? We've got some Terraflex springs under there. The Falcon, those are 3.2 or 3.3 shocks.
Yep. We have 3.5-inch kit in this, but it's more sitting like a 4.5 because of the speed bumps. Full Terraflex 3.5-inch system with Falcon 3.3s. All the control arms, Alpine IR arms, plus we have their long travel system in the rear. So we've got the new sway bar above the frame, and we've got like 17 inches of rear wheel travel.
And then for the bump stops, we've got the, this is the factory Fox hydraulic bump stops. So if you do bottom out your suspension, you've got a nice soft cushion to kind of slow things up. It's kind of like halfway between like a multi-bypass coilover, but not quite.
It's inching its way.
Yeah, so works really good. I've got the TerraFlex speed bumps in my Jeep. I really like it. So did you re-gear it at all?
Yes, I made sure before we did the Supercharger to re-gear to 456 because the math puts it at the more of a stock driving style, because I wanted the Supercharger to perform rather than compensate.
That re-gear is going to really help with these 37-inch tires that we've got on the front and rear of this thing. They look really, really sharp and aggressive. These are non-beadlocks, right?
These are the non-beadlock version. I prefer up here because you're not supposed to run beadlocks, but the non-beadlock versions, they just have a lot more aluminum around the edge to take damage and easy to touch up.
Cool, and they stay street legal. You don't run into any liability issues with insurance if you get into an accident, and keep it nice and clean. But those look really good. If you ever hear us referencing Fluffy, this is what we're talking about. The Ginger's Mojave is named Fluffy.
It's only killed one animal.
You've got really nice Diamondback cover on here. Keep all your gear clean. You mount whatever you want on top of this thing. It looks like it's just built like a
Pretty much. If you're a hunter, you just chuck a deer up there, strap it down, no problem.
Or, you know, an extra 37-inch tire. Really nice cargo management system. Who makes this cargo management system?
Nobody.
Nobody makes it?
It's just a company that sells parts for like trailers and cube vans and stuff, and it's called X-Track because you can use any T-Track piece 2 directions, any which way you want to use it.
Cool. Yeah, that works really well for mounting up the spare, and then you've got anything you put in the cargo area, keeps it nice and clean, and you still retain that truck look, which I think, to me, retaining that look is super important. If I ever picked up a Gladiator, I definitely want it to look more like a Gladiator. We've got Con in the background with the smart cap on it. Those smart caps are great, super functional, and especially if you bring a lot of gear out overlanding, they do a really great job, but it really, really changes the look of the Gladiator. You can see just the difference in how Gladiator looks with just a tonneau cover versus a full truck cap, and it really just completely changes the look of the vehicle. Now, we're gonna get into the engine. Let's talk a little bit about why we're here, and that's to talk about the RIP Supercharger underneath the hood here, and we're gonna take it out for a drive, but let's have a quick look. We'll pop the hood. I'll show you guys just what all that looks like under there, because it is quite a system added to the Gladiator, and then we're gonna go take it for a test drive, and I think the Ginger's actually gonna let me drive it, so that'll be exciting. Popping the hood open, holy smokes. How long did this take you to install? Because you did all this installation yourself, or, you know, with Landon.
Yeah, we did it here. Honestly, we took our time. We were in no hurry because we were also shooting video and all that other stuff. So it's an easy couple-day job if you take out the computer aspect of it.
And that's to send off to RIP to be programmed?
Yeah, you have to send the computer out to be unlocked, and then you've got to get tuning, and then you just work back and forth till the tuning gets to a nice baked point where it works.
So you don't need to do any dyno tuning or anything like that? And it's all remote tuning?
It's technically a plug-and-play system.
The question that I know everybody's going to be asking, it's pretty obvious. Does this void your warranty?
Do these come with warranties?
We're not very good with warranties with our rigs. We're just modifying them so much, but absolutely, without a doubt, if you put a Supercharger on your vehicle and you take it into the dealership, there's definitely going to be some warranty issues.
You didn't think I was going to trust someone else to work on it, so what's the warranty good
There
for?
you go, right? So, and you guys are selling these, doing installs here at Epic with the RIP?
We have installed these in the past. You might have seen us do it on social media. It is a really solid kit. Once it's tuned and running right, it really makes all the other 3.6s boring to drive around.
Oh, I can't wait to take it out for a rip. So, and I keep saying that, no pun intended.
That is such a good branding.
If somebody wants to send their Gladiator or Wrangler up here, or come by, you guys are located in the Lower Mainland, Vancouver area, or you can check Epic out on epic-4wd.com. And you guys, if somebody wants to ship their rig up here to get this set up and installed, that's something they can do?
Sure they can.
Awesome. So let's have a quick look through the engine. Really tight, I mean.
There, it is very well placed. Like, I can get the, because I've had the Supercharger out a couple times this week, just changing the pulley and belt setup. I can have it out pretty quickly onto the bench.
Awesome, but yeah, look at that. It's just tucked right underneath the alternator there. So there's the main compressor. I guess that's what they call it, the compressor in the supercharger. We've got our air intake. Now you did a bit of custom work here, getting this air intake up into this higher space here.
I wanted it away from the heat. So, and this was empty and not being used, so I moved it over there.
So for those of us that don't know, why do we want it away from the heat?
Heat's bad, cold better.
So essentially, hotter air is more expanded, and colder air is denser, which means you can put more air into your engine, which means you can combine it with more fuel, which means more bang, which means more
Which is why we have the intercooler on the front, sending the air through to help cool it down before it gets there. Why not give it a helping hand to start off colder?
Exactly. So a lot of forced air induction systems you see on engines, almost all of them have either some sort of air or air to water intercooler system, and the goal with that is to get heat out, get more dense, cool air into the engine, add more fuel, more air, more power. Ooh, you can hear it whistling. Listen to that.
That's the blow-off valve there.
Listen to that supercharger whine. That is a nice sound. So swapping the pulleys. You've done this a little bit. You've changed the pulleys a couple times now. Why do you keep swapping around?
So now I'm using what they refer to as the altitude pulley. So it's a smaller pulley, which is going to help spin up the supercharger faster, which will help the engine handle going higher altitudes. Also, I have put a restrictor on the front of the supercharger to limit the amount of air that's going to go into it. I know it sounds crazy, but the supercharger spins up faster, has a little bit limited air, which keeps the boost in a range that won't put my pistons outside of the engine block.
And that's definitely not where you want your pistons.
Yeah.
How much pressure are you running on this?
This is a 6 to 8 pound system. I can easily get 7.5 to 8.5 pounds. I've had it in the 12.5 range with tuning back and forth, but now it's running a nice solid like 5 to 8.5.
Now, are you able to just run regular pump gas with this? What sort of
I
octane?
wish. No, this is 91 minimum to 94 octane.
Okay, so you got to be able to find at least 91. You cannot go down to 87 or whatever it is.
It will not like it.
Okay, so premium only. How much power is that actually adding? How much power? Because you haven't dynoed it yet with the supercharger installed, but what is RIP saying? Because they've tuned it, they've dynoed. There's no point in dynoing
on the
right?
dyno, they've gotten like 380 at the wheel. Tree is like 200 to 215 at the wheels.
Depending on which day of the week they built it.
And how the temperature and the coefficient of friction is.
So many extra ponies.
Power.
It's a substantial amount of ponies.
Yeah. So this isn't the only supercharged Gladiator around the Epic family these days. We saw Sean coming in on the way in. What did you put on your rig, man?
A RIP supercharger.
It's like,
surprise!
You guys getting them out of vending machines or something?
No, we found a truck that was unattended.
The trail wrecker, Sean's Gladiator, just freshly installed supercharger with this candy apple red. What do we call this?
Yeah, it's candy red. So they did custom powder coating on the intercooler as well as the hoses in the back there.
Crazy. That looks really good.
It looks really nice.
Looks really nice. They did a really good job with that powder coating there. So we're not going to get into reviewing Sean's rig, but last week he just put out a video talking all about his RIP supercharger and the install and his experience with it. And if you guys want to go check that out, go check out the story till now. I'll throw a link down in the description as well, a link with epic-4wd.com to go check them out. But what do you think of it so far?
Man, it's fast. It's
Yeah.
good. I love it. The best way I can describe it is it makes the truck feel light. It feels like when you step on the gas, there's not that resistance to it actually
That's a
moving.
miracle.
That's what we were just talking about, and you have to not forget that you still have to stop.
Yeah. and it is easy to forget.
Well, I wouldn't want to be the person in front of you.
No.
Your Jeep feels taller than mine. It is. It is.
Probably. Just
The confidence. I know for sure I need one of these seatbelt things.
or two.
So what are some driving tips we need to know, or is there anything?
You got to understand that it's not going to slow down as fast as it used to. With the new Rubicons, the brakes are great compared to the JK. You add a whole bunch of boost, it's not the same.
It still weighs the same, right?
It still weighs the same.
See,
It now has more momentum.
you may be going faster. Right, so can't go too crazy because we're in the city, but the Ginger took traction control off. I can see what you mean by how quickly it gets up to speed than a normal rig. And yeah, your brakes aren't going to be any better, so you've got to be ready to stop and not get hauling too much. 8.6 is what you hit. So you've got a nice little
9.1.
Nope, 9.1. There is a little boost gauge up there in the corner
that I added because I just wanted to stare at it.
So that's not
That is not part of the kit.
Whoa! Wow. Yeah, that's a huge difference. And there goes the boost. So is that a wastegate or a blow-off valve?
Blow-off valve.
Blow-off valve. That is super peppy off the line. Now, my turbo diesel goes pretty good off the line, but not anywhere near as aggressive as soon as you hit the accelerator. But the noise in here, I don't know if you guys can hear the noise. It's something else. It's between the supercharger and the blow-off valve. There's a lot going on.
The card cry when I put it in.
I heard it crack a little bit when it went in there. Really, really fascinating to get this out and take it for a little drive. We're gonna put some fuel in it, and we'll take it for another little rip on the way back to the shop. I'm impressed. I am really impressed about how much that changes, but a total different driving experience from the Supercharged Mojave. This is really awesome. So Chris and I were just kind of talking a little bit about what's required when you have a supercharger in your vehicle. And you know, not only do you have to be okay with the additional fuel, paying the premium fuel, we're loading up on 94 octane here at the pump.
Great vintage.
It's great vintage fuel connoisseur right here, but what other kind of maintenance and additional things do you have to be looking out for and keeping an eye on when you supercharge?
You have to, Rip wants you to run a whole different kind of oil because out of the testing they did, the 020 factory recommends just doesn't hold up. So we're using a 540 synthetic. You have to change the supercharger oil every 5,000 miles or kilometers, I forget now, and you have to change the oil at that interval as well. So your maintenance costs are gonna go up, and it's not the quickest, easiest thing to change.
And it's something you don't want to forget about or push too.
No, it's definitely an enthusiast part.
Just like lots of the stuff that we put on our rigs, modifying them, it's increased maintenance for increased performance, and it's just what you have to expect, but you got to pay to play, right?
More fun, more cost.
More fun, more cost. Okay, let's get back in and finish off this test drive. Super huge thanks to the Ginger for letting me take a rip in his Rip Supercharged Gladiator. And obviously Epic for having us and letting us shoot these videos. All right. Wow, yeah, that's...
Is that noticeably different?
That was like not even half throttle.
Yeah,
I can notice that.
I don't really ever put it to the floor because it doesn't really need it.
Yeah, you can just, it's so responsive, holy smokes. Ooh, that's a little scary. I didn't think it would be that much faster than the...
For this heavy thing?
Yeah, that is a lot more responsive. Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's come a long way since when I first put it in. It's taken a lot to get to this point.
Yeah, that's really smooth.
Now it's just, it's dialed in, ready to go. And that's why I'm heading south.
That's a solid alternative to a V8. Like,
considering what it costs to get what? You're gonna pay 60, 70,000 to get a Gladiator, Wrangler, Rubicon, or something. And then you can buy this kit for like, depending on if you're Canadian, like 10 to 15K installed. That's a huge difference from 120 for the 392.
Well, that and just the cost difference between even just going into a diesel. Now the diesel is going to be more fuel efficient and economic, but this drives pretty mild if you're not on the throttle.
You can, and then it will, on the highway, it's not going to work as hard because it's got all that power. It makes those cool noises.
And it goes for a little bit extra when you lay into it until it lets that boost out of there.
Yeah.
You can hear it just bleeding. I honestly was not sure what to expect, and I was thinking, you know, okay, when you really get onto it, when you really get onto the throttle, I was going to expect it to really jump, and that's when you would feel the supercharger the most. But because it's a supercharger, not a turbo, the power is linear, and it just delivers more the more throttle you give it.
And it helps that I have the smaller pulley so that it ramps up faster at different RPMs.
Ooh, it really, wow.
It builds it fast.
Yeah, and just like the front end's coming up. Oh, it's got the TC off.
It shifts really weird if you leave it on and then your tires spin.
Woo, that's too much fun, man. I can just see the dollars going out the tailpipe, but worth it. Especially when they're not my dollars.
Yeah, and it's not exactly dollars, it's $5 to $10 that falls out at a time. According to Rip, this will take a 392 down.
Yeah, really, eh? Leave me some comments, questions, anything you want me to ask the Ginger. I'll ask him, and I'll leave you some replies down in the comments if you got anything you want to know about the Mojave, Gladiators, Superchargers, or how to groom an awesome beard. And
this is natural.
And make sure you guys are subscribed to my channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Epic Adventure Outfitters channel as well. And Sean from the Story to Now, because he's got a Rip Supercharged Gladiator. And leave a like if you enjoyed this video, guys. It helps the channel out a ton. And I'll see you guys next week.